got the nautical dog. Has just had her first time in the boat on the water. She wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but she's kind of rocking it out. Except when you're slowly coming out of the harbor, she sat on top of the side of the boat with all 4 feet up there like a cat. I'm like, get off of there! You gotta figure it out now. We went out and put the prawn traps out, so it'll be humorous to see her reaction when we pull the prawn traps up. She sees all the life come out of them. Anyway, where's glasses? You gonna stay on the boat? So we're offshore. There's only shitty things when we're close to shore in this boat. If she were to jump off, I'd be hooped because I can't beach this boat. I'd have to go into the dock and then I don't know what I would do. There's no roads going over to either side of that timber over there to find her, but I'm not sure she's gonna stay in the boat, aren't you, buddy? But anyway, she's having quite the adventure. We stopped at a couple rivers yesterday. She swam them with me. Ran the cameras, filmed some fish, saw some wildlife on a big hike. So now, while the traps soak, I hope the audio is not too nasty in here, because there's probably a bunch of echoing off the cab of the boat. And I can't proof tell yet. So, hopefully it's not too bad, you guys. I got a bunch of cleanup to do on the boat when I get in. No fishing today. Boats, repairs, cleaning up, repairs. Sometimes, it'd probably be cheaper to just get a wad of $100 bills, throw them in the ocean, and then go charter a boat, and you'd be saving money. Now, let's listen to some people here, shall we? Dear sir, I was scared so bad one night in the middle of the woods, I never hunted again. I never returned to the 488 acres of property that I pretty much grew up on in 1987. Our land was 13 miles northwest of Yosemite. What happened to me is unbelievable. No one will ever believe me. I feared nothing back then if properly armed, but that thing scared me. When I die, my first question to God is going to go like, God, what was that thing that scared me so bad? God, what was that thing? That's it. That's the email. Okay. If you would, one day, even though it scares the shit out of you, if you want to share the details of what you saw or what happened, it might help someone else, alright? Especially might help someone else around where you grew up, maybe even possibly. And it might even help you to hear your experience shared here amongst all these people who've experienced the same thing. Alright, here's another one. Sorry that happened to you, man. Sorry that was the outcome. Hey Steve, what you're doing is perfect, thanks. Please keep it up. My story is like dozens of others. I was bluff charged, screamed at, and followed by an angry Sasquatch. What I want to talk about are the parts that still disturb me. 15 years ago, I was on a spring hike in the coastal mountains in central California, 3 miles inside the Sasquatch wilderness. I came on an old, empty campsite with a spring and shady oaks, so I stopped for a break. I cooled down, drank water, and looked around, and noticed things were kind of strange. First, there was an old coffee can that had been split open and laid flat and jammed a good 6 inches into the trunk of a tree. I couldn't imagine how someone could do that. It would be hard to get a sharp knife 1 inch into that oak. The fire ring hadn't been used in weeks, full of leaves and rained on since the last fire. Nearby, dozens of 12-pack boxes crushed flat were laid out to cover the ground like a mattress. It was out of place, in a wilderness area. People are expected to carry out trash and generally do. This trash looked like a year's worth of beer parties. At this point, I know things aren't right with this campsite and I'm curious. I checked out the spring. Cattails grew tall over my head, but there was a narrow path through. The path led to where the grass was pressed to the ground, leaving walls of standing grass around, like a little room about 10 feet square. This is when the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. The grass under my feet was freshly pressed, still wet and springy, but it hadn't sprung back up. Someone had been laying there very recently. I felt a cold sweat. There was no one else on that trail, I was certain. No other cars at the trailhead, no other hikers, and no gear around. Yet some big living thing had made a bed in the grass. And it wasn't a bear because the little room was cut perfectly square, with sharp 90-degree angles. I found what did it when I came back from the spring. I heard a rustle in heavy brush down a ravine 50 feet in front of me. I expected to see a deer, until I heard branches snap. Big branches, and thundering footsteps. Bipedal footsteps. Thump, 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 as it ran up the other side of the ravine past me. I saw it maybe 20 yards away, running flat-footed. Tree branches blocked my view of its head and upper body, but I saw thighs as thick as telephone poles, calf muscles bulging, covered in short gray hair. It was broad daylight. The sun gave the hair a sheen. The thigh and calf were at 90-degree angle with the foot flat on the ground. Who runs like that? I could see the tendons behind the knee stretched as it launched away at an inhuman speed. Stunned, I just grabbed my pack and left quick. I didn't know what I'd seen, but part of me did know. There's a long history of sightings in the area. I hurried the 3 miles back to my truck, feeling eyes from the ridge above all the time, and immediately locked the doors. I drove a mile away before I stopped to piss. So, this ate at me all the way home. It ate at me all week long. I am an engineer, a critical thinker. I kept trying to fit what I'd seen into some kind of a real scenario. It must have been a man. But why would a man be hiding in the bushes and then come crashing out and run away? Could it be an illegal pot growers? What about the hair, the size, the incredible speed and stride? I had to go back and look. So, I returned the following weekend. I couldn't go under the trees, too spooky. So I went around behind where the thing ran. There was a path, and I followed it up a long valley that turned to a steep gully topping out on a flat ridge. The other side of the ridge sloped into a bowl, a small pristine canyon formed by a tributary to the Sasquatch River. The slope in front of me was an easy pitch down a manzanita-covered hillside. The chaparral grew just over my head. So, when I started down, I couldn't see over the brush. I got 50 yards or so, and a horrifying scream blasted from the trees in front of me. I can only compare it to the velociraptor from Jurassic Park. The sound was a screech and a growl, two-part harmony, so loud I felt a thump in my chest. My brain started looking for a reasonable explanation, and I concluded there had to be a backhoe and a dump truck working down there, because the screech almost sounded like metal on metal, like a giant rusty gate hinge. I went to a little knoll ahead of me where I could get a view over the brush. I could see there wasn't anything in that entire valley. No backhoe, no dump truck, no road. Of course not. It's a restricted wilderness area. This is when things got strange. This is the part I really want your listeners to hear. It was finally dawning on me. What screamed was some kind of animal. I also remembered what brought me there in the first place. I was putting two and two together. And then something came over me I can't explain. I started feeling hot. My skin prickled and my knees buckled. Then someone entered my brain and said, "You don't belong here, get out." I'm not shitting you. I didn't hear a voice. I just got this message clear as if someone said it in my ear. It wasn't my thought, it was foreign. A thought projected to me in clear, concise English. And I immediately complied. I retraced my path for home, and every now and then I could hear it pacing me. I never felt so vulnerable. I don't blame people for being skeptical about mind speak, but it communicated with me, and its message conveyed pure danger. Not malevolent, but the kind of anger you might show a trespasser in your own home. Get out or I'll kill you. In the years since, I've had one other sighting, and I've heard whoops and knocks and rocks clacked many times. I've seen footprints, tree structures, and scat. I live in Arizona now, and most of my encounters have been here. They can be anywhere. I believe they mean us no harm and want to be left alone. I've come to respect that and have quit hunting encounters. I carry a 44 mag in the woods. Not that it would do any good. They can disable us at a distance. Ultrasound is probably how. As an engineer, that makes sense to me. It's the intelligence they display that is spooky, and the sense of annoyance it directed at me. It had no fear of me. It meant business, and if I didn't leave, I might die. I'm going to leave you with this picture. It's real. A skull and spinal column stuck in a canyon cove in a place I won't name in the Four Corners area. An area with many sightings. I can't say what did this. Maybe an old First Nations burial, or maybe a pissed off wood ape. Stay safe out there. You can use my name, Andy Hall, Tucson, Arizona. Woo. Okay, Andy, appreciate that. The skull and the spinal column thing, that's a little... I didn't make sense of that statement, but maybe you could email me back more on that one. What kind of skull are we talking here? What do you mean? Was it huge? Was it one of these beings? Was it native? Was it human? Was it an animal? Or was it a skull and spinal column stuck somewhere that a human couldn't do? I don't know. Yeah, the intelligence is pretty crazy, right? So now that you have seen what you knew, I'm talking directly to you. You gotta agree with me when you see some of these reality shows or people online going out and banging on trees and hanging pheromone chips in the branches, trying to attract a monkey in the rut. Does it just make you shake your head? It's like, come on, you guys. All you gotta do is look for patterns. Look for patterns, listen to them. Listen to all the people and listen to the patterns, and you'll soon... I mean, how long would it take your average mind that functions to realize there's much going on here that just is an ape or a gorilla that nobody has documented officially, whoever the officials seem to be. It's funny we even put a label on anybody as an official. Screw them. We're the people. But I wonder if, for you directly, I wonder how this has affected the way you think about society, our education system, how we go about things on the face of this planet. If it has affected you the same way me or similar to me, maybe possibly, where it frustrates you about how many lies, how we've been misguided, misled on such a massive, vast level. However you want to say it, my mouth isn't meshing up with my brain right now as usual. I'm not quite awake yet. Another member of the Club of No Return. I wonder what's going on with Arizona, the Four Corners area. What's going on there? Why is that so popular? But I'd like to hear back from you, if you would like to share with me or other people how this has affected you, this reality that you've had slapped in your face, right? Has it changed your view on life, society, how we are? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. What do we got? Let's listen to somebody else. Where are we? Excuse me. All right, here's another one. Northern Alberta Forest Tech number 3. Oh, right on. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to this. I gotta get a hold of you guys here soon too. Like, this is red. Excuse me. Hello, Steve. This is a follow-up email to the Forest Tech who wrote in a few weeks ago about his experiences. A bit about myself. Born and raised in northwestern Alberta, Peace Country. I'm an avid hunter as you are and love to go elk hunting in September, my favorite month. I grew up in the outdoors and decided to go on the path of the Forest Tech out of high school. Since then, I've managed to develop my own consulting business, doing primarily cut block / road layout in northern Alberta. Most of our days are spent in the real world where the true reality is occurring, free of the BS of this backward society. As mentioned, our days involve traveling to the end of a road system, then quadding / sledding up seismic cut lines for between 5 to 40 kilometers, which gets us into no man's land quite often. Sometimes flying in with helicopters, then landing in open swamp holes, or even balancing the chopper on a beaver dam and bailing out the side. Many times we're over 80 kilometers from any kind of road or human existence. Once we reach our cut block for the day, we then set off on foot through virgin timber, flagging our cut blocks for the loggers who come in on later. We go where we have to go, not where we want to go. Sometimes very thick, miserable days through Devil's Club / fir, understory / blowdown, and other days some of the most beautiful open timber, which other human eyes haven't seen for a very long time, if ever. You take them as they come, no day is alike. To put it in context, on an average year I will flag approximately 700 kilometers through the timber, not counting the extra leisure miles chasing out through the riverbanks. You've seen some shit. Now for the meat of the subject. I'll start off by saying I haven't laid my eyes on a sabe as of yet, nor have I seen tracks. I've definitely felt pressure, as you say, in certain areas. Typically, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants and going with my gut instinct. I'll give you a summary of my oddest experience while out in the bush over my 8 years thus far. The first experience was back in November 2016. I was doing timber cruising plots on Watt Mountain, northwest of High Level. We set up for the day out of the truck. This was an easier day as the plot was within walking distance of the truck. About a kilometer into the bush, we stumbled upon a set of woman's clothes laying on the ground. It was perfectly laid out as if she laid there and disappeared. There was no evidence of an animal attack, no tears in the clothes, etc. We figured it was pretty far in for someone to dump a body off. It looked like the clothes had been there for 1 to 3 years, no bones either. But the vibes were very odd. We left scratching our heads and continued on with the day. That's frickin' brow-raising. The medley of swamp and islands of ancient spruce is unique to the high-level area. Sometimes the ancient groves of spruce put a guy into dreamy state, but the buzz of the helicopter brings you back home to civilization eventually. One must always watch his back. A side note, I survived a predatory bear attack while laying out a cut block way north of Zama City. The helicopter dropped me off for the day, and I was on a mission to traverse 3 kilometers of bush while laying out blocks to the next pickup location. About right in between heli spots, of course, I heard a twig break and turned to see a medium-sized black bear coming in full tilt. Fight or flight kicked in. My first reaction was to reach for the boomstick. However, I had about 2 seconds before he was on top of me, which wasn't enough. Oh, that sucks. Things went into slow motion. I screamed as loud as I could. I screamed as loud as I could at the bear face to face about 2 feet from me. He hesitated, giving me time to pump a couple of rounds into him. His head dropped dead in my boots. Thank God. I had to regather myself and continue laying out the block onto the next helipad. After experiences like this, it makes the rest of life's problems a little easier. No doubt. Next is September 2018. I was doing a layout southeast of Swan Hills, Alberta, in an area which was heavily logged. I was going in to get the last of the mature wood left over. There was this one block along a creek with the access of an old, grown-over cut line. I was quadding down the line and came up to this broken-off tree which was driven into the ground directly in the center of the trail. Photo attached. Oh shit, I hope I got that photo. With a few other trees balanced perfectly on top of it. It was deep enough that it couldn't be moved by hand. I looked around and couldn't see where this tree had come from. I immediately got the sense of, stay out, as this was one of the last stands of mature pine left in that zone. With a really nice creek buffered along the entire edge. I had to park my quad at this obstruction, which was basically at the block edge. It took me about a half an hour to get the gall to go into that block. I felt like I was being watched the whole day. Also stepped on several huge underground wasp nests. Got stung multiple times for a bonus. Oh man, when it rains it pours, right? Usually I'm on a horse in the lead, thank God, when I kick those underground ones and the guy behind me gets it. One never forgets that damn buzzing of a pissed off wasp horde. I still catch myself running at any buzz I hear. I remember feeling relieved when I was done that block and got the hell out of Dodge. I've had this same bad gut feeling before on Martin Mountain, northeast of Slave Lake, as well, on the same job as previous emailer. We were laying out burnt salvage timber from the big fire that happened there in 2019, way in the back end, like 20-kilometer ride in. I had one boundary following this thick spruce/fir unburnt green stand. I had to go measure a creek width in the bottom of a big gully. A sense of dread came over me suddenly. It felt as if I didn't leave that patch of green timber, bad things were going to happen. I pretty much stopped my tracks and turned around right there and then. I went back exactly where I came from. I spent the rest of the afternoon looking behind my shoulder, whether it was a grizzly or the big man. If I continued down that creek, I'm not sure I would have made it out. I've learned, as you say, to listen to the inner voice. There's been several occasions where I got the sudden urge to look behind me while in the bush, and there was a bear peeking out from behind a tree 15 meters stalking me. That inner voice isn't listened to. If that inner voice isn't listened to, very bad things could happen. It seems like animals give off an aura, so to speak, and we can sense each other's aura, or something is going on in higher dimensions we haven't quite figured out yet. Lastly, one of the main areas I'm working in lately is north of the town Worsley. North of the tiny town Worsley. About a year ago, you had read an email regarding a sighting just north of the Clear Hills Indian Reservation, which is a 15-minute drive from town. I've frequented all that area. Our main work area has been along the southern border of the Chinchaga wildland, only accessible by helicopter in the summer or sledding 40 kilometers in during the winter. It's a very quiet area with little human activity going on. Oil and gas wells were mostly duds, so the only people in the area is the two trappers, which only go up there in the winter. In the summer 2021, me and my buddy flew in for the usual day's work. At the end of the day, I asked him if he heard anything odd in a joking sense, and he mentioned actually he heard what sounded like heavy wood knocks in the distance. Not fast enough to be a woodpecker, just loud, individual knocks beating a tree in the distance. He's a certified faller and knows his tree sounds. I've noticed countless odd tree structures, primarily along creeks. This winter I came across several triangular tree structures with random suspended trees hanging in them. The pressure was there. I've also seen small trees put in a circular formation around a huge spruce tree. I couldn't find the stumps around the big tree, so something placed them there. Generally, I get pretty good vibes in this area. However, when darkness comes, you can bet I'm close or on the way to the sled. I try to leave out some critical wildlife hotspots as an offering of respect to the land. I was lucky enough to lay out the wood at the headwaters of the Notikewan River, Notikewan River, which actually starts in a big muskeg. One river flows west to BC, the Doig River and Square Creek to the east, which feeds the Notikewan, which eventually flows through the town of Manning, then into the Peace River. See, that's a summation of a few of my experiences. I plan on continuing on what I do no matter what. Knowing these things are out there makes it a little harder to venture out into the darkness on those frosty September mornings, but the thrill of the hunt keeps me pushing forward. Regarding the current path of society, I could go on and on. No doubt. Cheers to all those common sense people out there. We must stand together in the face of elitists' agenda to enslave us all. Feel free to read my name, Darren Turcott. Oh, there is a picture here. Cool. Okay, that's freaking creepy. What the hell? Wow. I wonder if I can do it this way. Well, it looks like it's working. Check that tree out. Pretty bizarre. Is there another one? Yeah, only the one photo, okay. Okay, I got your note, man. Hopefully I can pull this off. I gotta line up a handful of items to try to pull that off, and if I can, it's gonna be later this month. Now, I wonder, you know, with you guys, I mean, once I hook up with you guys, we'll be bullshit about a lot of stuff. I wonder how many loggers, I wonder how many loggers are sitting here listening when they can because they just want to learn. And they don't want to talk openly about it. They're not into possibly being laughed at. But I'll tell you what, you guys, from the amount of people here, we very, very, very rarely have somebody who is in the logging profession comment or email in and say, this is bullshit, I've been doing this for 40 years, haven't seen nothing. Said hardly anybody ever, right? I think that must possibly tell you something too, especially where I live and the people that have been following my hunting and fishing and this channel and content. There is a piss load of forestry workers following this channel, and not very many email in to say this is ridiculous or no, there's nothing out there, right? I wonder how many of you forest techs out there, loggers, fallers, drivers, whatever, have had experiences and just don't want to talk about it. But you're hanging here learning anyway. I bet there is a pile. And on that bear thing too, a lot of you might be surprised to hear of a black bear trying to take down this man. And there's an author, Gary Sheldon. Sheldon, I think. Gary Sheldon, a biologist from up in Bella Coola. And I'm not 100% certain. His son has passed. And it may have been from a bear. I'm not certain on that, okay? But he dedicated his life to studying and compiling every single bear attack, charge, whatever he could get his hands on, both black and grizzly bears and brown bears, and I think he just did it in British Columbia. Maybe more. Oh yeah, he did it all around North America, I believe. Anyway, he proved that there is a predatory, aggressive nature with northern black bears, with bears on human beings. That means the northern black bears see us as a roast beef sandwich. That's pretty creepy. And it doesn't take much of a bear to take you down. Look at how many people out there are scared of, say, a pit bull. Pit bull sized dog. How many people are like, oh man, there's a pit bull. Well, your average bear is way bigger than your pit bull. Alright? And he's got basically some hands with claws on him that's gonna grab your ass and pull tight while he rips you apart. But anyway, I've only had that happen once. I had one time in my lifetime I had a black bear while guiding. I was north side Alaska Highway. What mile would that be? I don't know. I was between Fort Nelson and Toad River, north, way north, Alaska Highway, remote. And this damn black bear was stalking me like a cat in his belly. And I had brown Carhartt coveralls on, a red hoodie, and a cowboy hat. Standing there in heat, and there wasn't a branch in between us. He knew exactly. He probably didn't know, oh, there's a man, but he knew that I was not an elk, was not a moose, was not a caribou. He knew that for sure, and he was still coming to see if he could take me down. And my hunter. It was bizarre to watch. And he's just, like you said, he's just a medium-sized black bear. And I grabbed the hunter's rifle and put a hole in his head. We had two small children in camp, under 5 years old, the whole fall, my partner's and his wife's kids. So, no, that bear didn't get to live. Anyway. Okay, we're at the dock. Adventure dog's having her breakfast. That'll be human. And the prawn traps are soaking, loading up with prawns, hopefully. And I'm going to do this. Some more. This is titled Encounter Katoomba, Australia. So sorry for the numerous typos in that email. A few years later, I studied a course on Aboriginal culture and discovered the Gundungurrua and the Darug tribes had regarded the Three Sisters rock formations as Katoomba itself as a kind of damned or cursed area. It is their belief that it is unfit for people to live in and should only ever be visited. Fire jumpers, law enforcement, and First Nations. RE, this episode, I had an encounter here in Australia. Katoomba, Blue Mountains, New South Wales, Australia. Me and my two mates were hiking for the day. An odd thing that kept happening was a currawong, Corvidae species similar to a magpie, followed me at the Three Sisters Canyon many times during the day like it was watching me and my buddies. Long story short, we kept staying into the evening and were getting ready to leave when one of these creatures pretended to need help. It tried to lure us down the goat trail, winding down the steep cliff face and into the valley floor below. Help! Help! I suggested we try to go to the aid of this person by my mates, but my mates weren't convinced by the calls for help, and that had quite an odd effect on me, as I believed it. We all decided to venture down, but waited and listened longer. Once it realized we weren't falling for it, it began to imitate a baby, a woman wanting to be pleasured, and then the original male voice asking for help, and for the final, a blood-curdling roar that I could only describe as being exactly like a lion and something human-esque or ape-like. We ran so very fast out of that place. I've grown up in and around the forest and nature in Australia, but I'm reluctant to camp alone in remote areas after that. No name for me. Love your show. It's my favorite on YouTube. Okay, man. That's alarming. And that's also, I think everybody could agree, that's a bit of a pattern by now with the mimicking cries of a woman, a baby, or asking for help and trying to lure people somewhere. Who knows if it is your typical Sasquatch, Sabe person being, I don't know. Because there is much more going on. And I think one thing that somewhat proved to me something else dark and sinister maybe going on is the interview of that guy in the southern U.S. that was a researcher, looking into the Sasquatch Bigfoot thing, and something got a hold of him in a way and terrorized the living shit out of him. And from what I understand, ruined him. Oops. Do I think that was a typical Sasquatch Sabe being? Not myself? I don't think so. But who knows? But I don't think my gut's saying no. So, there you go. That was pretty alarming. I wonder how many people have fallen for it and maybe disappeared. I don't know. There's another one titled Two Encounters. Steve, I appreciate your channel and this community of No Return Club members. You may refer to me as Matt. My first encounter, I'll call it an auditory encounter. This happened in September of '81 near Telephone, Texas. Oh, I think we already wrote this one. Sorry, you guys. Okay, hold on a minute. I don't think I read this. Sorry for the interruption. In Telephone, Texas, which is only a few miles from the Oklahoma border, I was living on 20 acres of woods with my wife and two young sons. My wife and I were sitting on the front porch at dusk, resting after a day of work, when we heard a terrifying, arcing scream that lasted about 10 seconds, ending in a very low frequency, indicating that whatever made that sound was very large. The volume was so loud that we should have been able to see what it was, but we saw nothing. We were very alarmed at the sound, and I instantly felt like prey. I did not want to see what it was. I just wanted to hide. We didn't have to call our two dogs in, for they were already cowering at the front door. We quickly went inside and locked the door. The next day, as I was working outside listening to the local radio station, and it was announced that there was a Bigfoot sighted across Highway 82 a few miles northeast of our location. So, I connected the sound to the sighting. My next encounter happened in Alabama, near the Talladega National Forest in July 2012. I'm somewhat apprehensive to share this encounter because the description of what I saw doesn't fit the typical description of Sasquatch. Are there different types of these creatures or beings? Maybe I was hoaxed. If so, it was a good one. My wife and I were visiting her family, who owned a house on 90 acres of woodland next to the Talladega National Forest west of Brent. They called this their country home, and they would spend the weekends there. We always stayed at the country home when we come to visit. They lived and worked in Tuscaloosa. One day, I drove to town for groceries, and on the way back, I stopped in at a little church with a graveyard in which my wife's relatives were laid to rest. The little church was several miles from town, and there weren't any houses nearby, just forest. I'd visited the graveyard many times, and I'd never seen anyone else there. I stopped in that day to just think and pray because it was so peaceful there, and, as usual, no one else was there. It was somewhere between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., and there was still plenty of light. I was standing by the gravestones of relatives when suddenly I heard footsteps in the woods on the dry leaves. The footsteps were bipedal and were coming directly toward me from about 100 yards out. It's not uncommon for church members who live close by to keep an eye on the church. However, as I mentioned, I didn't see any residences nearby. I was preparing to introduce myself when this person turned 45 degrees to his left about 50 yards out. When he did, there was a break in the foliage, and I clearly saw from the waist up what appeared to be a man wearing a skin-tight fur suit. The fur was short, black, and had a shine to it. The man was muscular, and I clearly saw muscular movement under the fur. That's why I say the suit was skin-tight. His head was round, not conical, and he had somewhat of a neck. His face was black, and I could see no features. I don't know how tall he was, but he didn't seem to be gigantic. He was in view for only 3 seconds, but those 3 seconds are burned into my memory. I think my heart stopped for a second. I could not move. My mind was racing. She's barking at. Sorry. I think my heart stopped for a second. I could not move. My mind was racing. Is this a hoax? How likely is it that a man would be wearing a fur suit on a hot July day waiting in the woods for someone to visit their graveyard? If this is not a hoax, then I'm dealing with something that's not human. And I don't know what its intentions are or what it is capable of. And I found that uncertainty to be frightening. I followed the sound of the footsteps in my eyes until he stopped. He was in the woods, and I was standing in the open. I could not see him, but I knew I was being watched. I had left my handgun in my vehicle, which was parked between me and him. I no longer had the desire to introduce myself. I just wanted to leave. My paralysis finally broke, and I started walking calmly to my vehicle. I didn't want to show fear. It took great restraint not to sprint. I got to my vehicle and left. I'm curious to see if anyone else has seen beings in the forest that don't fit the typical description of Sasquatch. Alright, well, keep an eye on the comment section below, man. And we've had that description more than a handful of times, though, right? You're not alone. Not at all. Born in Alabama. Well, I wonder if I should read another one or attend to this nervous dog. I think I may have. Oh no, here we go. There's so many more here. So many more. Alright, let's do this one. Oh, there's photos too. Alright. Mark this as red. She probably sees a mink or an otter or something over there. Imagine being a young dog and seeing all these adventurous things for the first time ever. Must be bizarre. This is titled, "The Truth Must Be Told." Hi Steve, my name is Daryl Jones. I've been visiting a clan of Sasquatch in East Texas for the past 8 years. I'm one of your followers who is being lost on your old cell phone. I've written you several times, but my story has not reached your audience through you. I often comment on your videos, but I understand that you do not have the time to read all those comments. And here's my problem. The manager at the WMA that I visit refuses to believe that Sasquatch live in his woods. I'm hoping you can have Edgar and the Owl Man contact him and explain to him that what I'm telling him is the truth. He's a good man, but he still believes the lies he's been fed all of his life. I believe the Owl Man and Edgar could give him the knowledge that he needs in order for him to work with me and understand the beings who are living in his charge. I'm not expecting Matt to make many changes in his work, but I do need him to work with me so that I can learn more about them. I've been walking and sitting throughout the sleeping area of this clan for the past 8 years. I've been as close as 6 feet from them. Dozens of them can be seen in my videos when I watch them frame by frame. It wasn't until a year after I first entered the woods that I saw that I had captured them on my first videos, on that first day. Other than one growl, they have not come forward to communicate with me. They are a very docile clan. I can find them in my videos as they stand just out of my view and watch me as I walk through their home. The one growl that I got was when I scared a pig away from a young hunter by accident. I watched the pig run down into the dry creek bed and up the other side before the growl came from the area that I first saw the pig take off. I was on a mission to find the spot that I had found to be the high point of the area on Google Earth. I did not have my camera or an audio recorder running at the time because I thought they were not there. As it turns out, they've been in the area for most of my visits. They move away during the hunting season to a place where the hunters do not go. I don't know where that is, but I'm hoping to find out if they ever communicate with me. Just like us, they are generally a good people. I've learned a lot from the Owlman's emails, and Edgar has a knowledge of them that Matt might just believe. Please write to both of those gentlemen and give them Matt's work email address. There's a blue jay right beside me on the rail of the boat looking through the window. I don't think he's going to let me move the camera. No, he might. And show you. Oh, there he goes. Sorry. That's cool. There's always something, right? Let them help Matt to understand the truth and see that he needs to work with me to learn about these beings. I could use all the help I can get to spend time with this clan to learn more about them. I'm not a scientist or an academic, so I am not in the circle of idiots that refuse to acknowledge the truth. My intention is to educate those around me to increase the knowledge base of these people. My immediate goal is to get Matt to approve my request to enter his WMA at night when the clan is awake and active. Thank you for all that you have done for those of us who know the truth, and thank you for helping those who have had a difficult time with their families because of their experiences with the truth. They're not all bad. Daryl A. Jones. You get a whole bunch of pictures on here, and well, that looks pretty crazy, but here's some pictures. Let's see if this works, alright? That's working. There's one of the photos. Zoomed in from one of his photos that was much bigger. See that? Another one here. I believe. Let's give it a zoomed in ones. You can understand where I am, you guys. I'm on a dock. It's going to be much easier for me to do it this way. There's the second picture. Here's a third photo. I can't see what... Oh, hold on. Come on, zoom in, you sucker. Oh yeah, top right side of the log. Is that 3? 1, 2, 3 photos. There you go. Okay, man. You got to picture this one. For a man to look you in the eyes and he doesn't want anything to do with the topic. Okay? Now picture if that man who looks at a man who he knows and will not listen to him. Now, what do you honestly think is going to happen if you forward him a name from the internet? right? That he does. He can't even stand there and look at their face for an expression. I could not see that doing anything for this man. You never know. I don't know. But I think possibly if you could look him square in the eye, square up with him, just ask him. Pick one of the numerous videos on this channel that you think may have the most impact and ask him to listen. Ask him to listen to one of them, right? Yeah. Maybe do that, or maybe even get him to listen to this video, and then if the people that you are requested to be in contact with are watching, maybe they will agree to or get on the comment section below. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, I never ever try to convince anybody of anything. If your mind is there, it's there. If your mind is inquisitive and wants to know and realizes there is much more going on, the mind is already, I think the mind's already going to be there before I can deliver anything to it or try to talk somebody into believing, like, for me, what I've learned so far is when the topic comes up, or if I bring up the topic with somebody, when I'm in a circle of people who work remote, work on the coast, travel for work on highways, I know right away. If I say, you ever seen or heard anything kind of weird out in the forest or on the road? And if they have, they will twig into my question immediately. If they haven't, don't have a clue, don't have anything to do with this topic, nope. And you can tell right away. And I don't push it. If somebody asks me, I'll talk about it. If they ask me, if they have an interest, I'll talk about it. But I do not push the topic on people who don't want to accept it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. But what does matter to me is the people who've had the reality slapped in their face, didn't ask for it, the people who know what's going on and want to share their knowledge and help me learn and help all you learn. I got attention. I got time for them. Big time. But sadly, I don't have too much time for the people who don't want to know. Okay, we don't have to talk about it. We'll talk about fishing and hunting and shit. I don't care. Whatever you want. Anyway, that dog sure has her attention on shore. So I'm going to see if I can't get this loaded up. And maybe even possibly find some kind of Wi-Fi connection here somewhere. And get this shared up with you guys. And then the dog and I are going to carry on our adventure. Not sure what's going to come next. It's going to be something fun. For her anyway.